All right, welcome back to the New Look Richard Sherman Podcast with my guy, Mitch Eisenstein. Mitchell, Nicholas, John Bosa, 5 years, $170 million, 122 guaranteed. I text him. He's so excited, ready to go. Going to make an impact this Sunday. Mitchell, what you think?
I think Nicholas John Bosa gave you a nice couple grand in the Venmo account, Richard. You just outfitted your back office. My goodness, talk about an upgrade from the John Clayton closet to what now looks like the Taj Mahal for those of you watching. But Richard, you called it. You've said this for months now, years now, that Nicholas John Bosa is going to set the market, that he deserves to be paid as such. I want to hear your reactions to this breaking news on a 5-year, $170 million deal with the San Francisco 49ers.
Mitchell, I am excited, and I'm sure the state of California is excited too because they're going to get their 13% up out of him. But Mitchell, nobody deserves it more. He's getting quarterback money. Well, off quarterback money, but, old quarterback money, but quarterback money. I mean, he's one of the best players in the National Football League. I would guess he'd be top 3 right now, period, regardless of position. And he's earned the money. And I'm sure everybody in San Francisco is in the building, outside the building, on the street corner, is excited that he's going to be playing this Sunday. You know who's not excited? The Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line. Because they said they were preparing for him. Mike Tomlin said all the right things because he's a great coach and he's a great strategist. But I guarantee you they would have preferred Nicholas John Bosa not be present for this game, even if he's spot duty, because he's definitely going to be on a pitch count. You can't expect him not to be on a pitch count coming off of, the streets, no contact really, and they're not going to give him a lot of contact this week. So his first contact will be on game day, which is, a little terrifying. I'm sure he'll try to find a way to get physical. Maybe he's been going live with somebody, where he's training. But either way, I'm sure they're ecstatic to have him in the building.
Well, Rich, it's seemed to be a thing this offseason with big name defensive players. I mean, we saw the running back market take a turn this offseason. We've seen the tight end market take a turn this offseason. We got some big name players still holding out. You see Chris Jones, obviously the feud going on in Indianapolis. With the running back.
I hate that situation, Mitchell. I hate the Jonathan Taylor situation because it's so underhanded. This guy has been giving his all to that franchise. He hasn't done anything that I know of, to this franchise or to this owner, but give his best, give them quality football. He wants to be paid more money. He actually deserves to be paid more money. And you know what they do? They put him on the injured reserve or they make him miss the first 4 games when he's not injured, and he's clearly telling people he's not injured. And then you're sitting there trying to take his money. You're trying to find him and trying to make sure that he's not able to get all his money. I mean, it's just, there's something to be said for like, hey, a guy holding out, a guy doing this, you gotta punish him, like Chris Jones. Chris Jones is getting fined, but I'm sure once they come to an agreement, they'll give him all the fine money in his contract. So it all splits and is a zero net, which is fair. He's a franchise player for him. And I mean, if they don't have him against your Detroit Lions, Mitchell, that's a whole different game. It's a whole different game if he's not present tomorrow night. And if they know what's good for him, right now, Detroit feels like they have a shot. Without Chris Jones, the Kansas City Chiefs defensive line is ranked 28th in pass rush rank in the last 5 years, Mitchell. When he's not on the field, they are not getting home. And so if they don't get home against your Detroit Lions and Jared Goff, for all the mess he gets, all the crap he gets, if he has time to stand back there and dissect, he can get the job done.
Well, Richard, let's look at the business aspect of these guys choosing to hold out. I mean, obviously it worked out for your boy Nicholas John Bosa, now becoming the highest paid defensive player in NFL history. Chris Jones is going to try to beat that market now. I don't think he's going to be able to, but, maybe on an average value, who knows? But Richard, how much does it mess with an athlete's psyche when you're holding out and there might not be a foreseeable finish line in the future? I mean, who's to say, Chris Jones signs tomorrow morning? I mean, he's not going to be ready for Thursday night. When realistically can you expect a guy, a premier athlete, to be ready after such a long holdout?
Well, Chris Jones just did an interview yesterday and spoke on that exact topic. He said, hey, if we get this thing done tonight, I'll be ready for Thursday night. It is not looking likely as Andy Reid said, they're making no progress. So unless, barring some miracle, he won't be out there. But it's just unfortunate, because he's, everybody says play to your contract and, you're under contract and you signed it. And it's like, yeah, but guys sign contract that teams cut them from all the time. And I do not hear the same fans up in arms like, why'd you cut that guy? You signed him for this amount. You promised him. You signed that contract. Honor it, team. But you want the players to honor him. And so I don't have any problem at all with a player sitting out, knowing his value, wanting his value. But what's frustrating is when teams do what they're doing to Jonathan Taylor, a good kid who came to work out and just asked, hey, can I get a raise? Or can I get a trade? And then they kind of bungled his trade. It was like, hey, we'll let you look for a trade for the next week. And if you don't get it in a week, but that's after everybody has, figured out their salary cap for the year. They figured out their trade assets, their draft picks that they're willing to give up. And nobody's giving up a first rounder right now. If they did this before the draft, who knows? There could have been action there. Miami's been looking, they seem to be in on every running back that's been available. And so it's just a weird situation. And it's terrible when a team does a player like the Colts are doing Jonathan Taylor. And then you're doing it when he has a rookie quarterback. There's a rookie quarterback. You know what would help a rookie quarterback in this situation? Anthony Richardson would be helped if Jonathan Taylor was in the backfield. All the weight wouldn't be on his shoulders. Now he's going to have a worse season because he doesn't have a premier running back on the field with him. And he could. They have a premier running back. So it's just like doing everybody a disservice just to be stubborn.
Well, this running back position is certainly an anomaly. Like in sports, Richard, I mean, the running back position is such a valuable position, but financially speaking, it is the least valuable position. What does the running back, I guess, committee, a group of the running back union, if you will, have to do to remedy this going forward? I mean, Richard, you're an executive committee member on the NFLPA. You've got some say in this. What does this solve to avoid these Jonathan Taylor situations, to avoid these Josh Jacobs situations, Rich? Austin Eckler. I mean, the list goes on. And Saquon Barkley, Tony Pollard. These are elite, grade A, tier 1 running backs that are underpaid. And the solution seems to be just franchise tag them for a year. That's their bonus. And then they can walk. What's the solution long
Mitchell,
term?
there's no solution. I have, because you're talking about there are backs getting paid. Christian McCaffrey's getting paid. And in New Orleans, he's getting paid. He's getting good money. I think they're 16. Kamara's getting 15. There are backs that are really versatile and they're making a lot of money. They're making really good money. But they do everything. They play running back. Your boy Jamar Gibbs, when he comes up, he's probably going to, if he plays like everybody's saying he's playing out there in Detroit, he's going to get top running back money because they do everything. But what I don't understand is how the tight end market is getting $17 million and the running backs are having a hard time getting 12. Like tight ends used to be a non-value position. They're not producing well enough to be a receiver. Now, if you're saying Travis Kelce, a Hall of Famer, a guy who literally is the go-to guy on his team, the number one, regardless if they have a receiver or not, when the game is on the line, that's who you're going to. Give him his 17, 18 million, and he's only making 14. But everybody's not that guy. You talk about George Kittle when he's at his best. He gets the ball. He's turning a little bit into a lot on a lot of plays. He's changing the game. He's bringing a different kind of intensity. Then okay, give him his money. But T.J. Hockenson, I don't remember making that kind of impact. I mean, Travis Kelce caught 110 balls, and I got to go back and look at T.J. Hockenson's stats. And not to hate on him, everybody deserves to get their money. But I'm just trying to understand when the tight end position became more valuable than the running back position. I mean, I guess they're on the field every play, but running backs could be on the field every play. If they're 3 down back, I'm guessing they're probably going to get their money. But I just don't understand when that flipped. When the running back became such an unvalued position, such a, hey, anybody can do it. We can get a guy off the street. We can get an undrafted guy in the 5th round, guy in the 3rd round. And I think it's because Kyle Shanahan, the year we went to the Super Bowl and Raheem, who was unheralded, ran for like 250 on Green Bay in the NFC Championship game. And then it's like, well, he's not a premier back, and he just went off. And so that was the scheme. It's not the back. It's like, anybody can fall into that, fall victim to that. I just don't get it.
Well, Richard, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I think you've skipped a generation. I don't think it was Kyle Shanahan that changed it. I think it was Mike Shanahan that started to change it. I mean, You saw Terrell Davis. What was he? 7th rounder, undrafted out of Georgia, turns into a Hall of Fame running back. And not to discredit him and his talent by any means, but that Denver Bronco blocking scheme and system was one that Olandis Gary, if you remember that name, was 1,000-yard rusher in.
Right.
So, I mean, Kyle Shanahan's kind of taken that and put his own fine-tuning twist on it. And you're right. I mean, Elijah Mitchell, anyone that gets in that system seems to have a lot of instant success out of nowhere. So,
but then, of course, Kyle Shanahan then goes and gets the highest paid running back,
sure,
Christian McCaffrey. And he works the best in this scheme. That's crazy because you paid for quality. And Christian McCaffrey is likely going to have 1,000 yards receiving and 1,000 yards rushing. And that's what you're paying him for. You're paying him because he can do everything. But let's change the subject because it's going to piss me off talking about these owners and what they're doing to these guys, because Jim Irsay should be ashamed of himself for what he's doing to Jonathan Taylor. Like, that's a good kid. He's not he's not committing crimes. He's not getting arrested. He's not causing a stir outside of the football field. He's playing well. Like, that's enough. But your Detroit Lions, Mitchell,
Richard, this team, you didn't want to talk about them last year. I had to bring them up every time we got on this. And now you're willingly bringing them up. So that tells me that they've arrived, Rich. We got a game tomorrow night in Arrowhead. I am fired up. I'll probably be 6, 7, 8 drinks deep by the time of kickoff, but it's going to be, promise me this, Rich. Promise me this. When the Lions upset the Chiefs tomorrow night, we're going to jump on an emergency podcast for an instant reaction show because I think it's absolutely necessary. This team, Rich, I'm speaking from a Detroiter's mindset. They're ready. They're well coached. They're well managed. These boys are going to come up fired up and ready to win. And you hate to see another player get injured, but this news about Travis Kelce being questionable, it just kind of opens a little door for him. Everything seems to be falling in the right direction. So I'm going to stick with my hot take, Rich. And I'm going to even put, a number out there. I think they're going to beat them. And I think it's going to be in the neighborhood of 30 to 26, 27, somewhere in an obscure number. 30 to 26, Rich, 30 to 26.
You leave it that close, Mitchell. I don't think you're going to be feeling comfortable with Patrick Mahomes in the ball and you're up 4. I think you're going to feel very uncomfortable if he has the ball left and you're up 4. But that's a story for a different day. This receiving core for the Kansas City Chiefs, if they do not have Travis Kelce, are very containable, Mitchell. They are very containable. I mean, you talk about Valdez-Scantling, you talk about Kadarius Toney and whether he's healthy or not. Sky Moore, who we had on the podcast a couple years ago before he got drafted. What are they going to do? They're not as former Justin Ross, who everybody's been very high on, but hasn't played in 2.5 years of live. It counts on the books football. He was very elite when he was coming out before he got injured, but it's to be seen what he's going to do in an actual NFL game. That's not a preseason and it's not practice. So it's exciting. That defense is going to have to show up for you guys. I mean, it's going to have to take big strides. And Jared Goff said, hey, if it's a shootout, he's ready for it. And they got the weapons to shoot it out. Mitchell, Jamar Gibbs, they keep talking about him. Mitchell, what have you heard about the running back position?
I mean, before we get there, I think Jared Goff's still dusting off the cobwebs for your hit on the goal line about 7, 8 years ago, because I will tell you this, Rich, that I was in attendance that night and you could feel that hit. You felt bad for the guy. That was his rookie year. But I'll say this, Goff has surprised me. I love what he's done with this team. He's taken over. He's got a sense of ownership of the team. Players seem to look up to him. He's a good leader. He's good in the community. I was a little kind of caught off guard with what the Lions did in the draft. I think everyone was, but at the end of it, kind of all made sense. I mean, we already touched on it. Jahmyr Gibbs, that Swiss Army knife, that Christian McCaffrey, that they're going to add to their roster. They got Sam Laporta, a good young tight end. David Montgomery, a back that actually got paid this offseason, Rich, to the tune of $6 million plus a year. So we shall see. C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I mean,
C.J. Gardner led the league in interceptions.
That they've got Cam Sutton. They got some new, and your boy Eman Mosley.
Don't sleep on Eman.
I'm excited, Rich, because it seems like the chapter is turned from the same old Lions, and this is a brand new story. This is a brand new brand of football here in Detroit, Rich, and I think we're about to see it tomorrow night. I want to know. I got to ask, and I'll hold you to it here. Do you see the Lions winning? Like, give me your best prediction of how this game unfolds and what the outcome will be.
It's so many unknowns. I can't give it to you unless I know if Kelsey's playing. Because if Kelsey's playing, it's a different game, Mitchell. It's a entirely different game if Travis Kelsey's out there. He's going to be difficult to contain. I'm trying to think who Detroit would have to put on him. I mean, it doesn't matter who you put on him. He's going to be a hard matchup. But who you put on him to even give yourself a chance to make an impact. It's interesting to see what Donovan Smith is going to do. He's coming off one of his worst seasons in Tampa. He gave up 6 sacks last year, but he played better down the stretch. But it's a different left tackle. It's not Orlando Brown. They lost Orlando Brown. So there is some movement on that that offensive line, and it gives opportunities for Detroit's defensive line to test it. You know, usually early in the season, offensive linemen are at their most vulnerable. Later in the season, they're chiseled, they're ready, their continuity is great, they're right where they need to be. If you're going to get somebody, it's usually early in the season. If Travis Kelsey plays, Mitchell, I think Mahomes finds a way, Mitchell. If Travis Kelsey does not play, I think Detroit wins it in a shootout, 38 to 30. They go for 2 sometimes. Dan Campbell gambles a little bit. And yeah, that's what I feel.
Well, C.J. Gardner-Johnson just referred to the Detroit Lions secretary as the new Legion of Boom. We will see that tomorrow night, Rich. That is a high standard to live up to. Hey, before we go, that's a question I got to ask. This whole podcast was dedicated to Nicholas John Bosa, and we kind of veered, Rich. I know you always looked up to Nicholas John Bosa when he was a rookie. You thought he was an absolute stud coming out.
I didn't necessarily look up to him, but I'm with you. I'm a fan.
I mean, I think you were forced to physically look up to him. He's a big guy. But, Richard, you've played with a number of greats. You've played with, future Hall of Famers. You've played with guys that were trendsetters at their positions, the Cam Chancellors of the world, Earl Thomas, Cliff Averill, Bobby Wagner, Michael Bennett, just to name a few, KJ Wright. Where would you rank in the hierarchy? And I know you only played with Nicholas Bosa for a couple of years, but where would you rank him in that top tier talent you've had the luxury of taking the field with?
Well, I think he's probably one of the best teammates that I've had just overall as a human being. I try not to rank him in that way. I played with him his rookie year. We went to a Super Bowl. If we had won that Super Bowl, I'm sure everything would be a lot different. Maybe COVID wouldn't have existed and everything would be perfect in the world. Sure. That's what happened. Let's see what you did, Patrick Mahomes. You messed everything up. But I did get to play with him as a rookie. I forged a really, really strong friendship with him, a good friend of mine, just like I did a lot of my other teammates. I think he's going to end up being a first ballot Hall of Famer. He has the resume. He'll keep building it. Defensive Player of the Year, I think he'll be the front runner for it again this year. It might take him a couple of weeks to get involved and get up to speed to get his sacks. But if he gets too early, Mitchell, if he gets to Kenny Pickett, in this next game, Mitchell, the sky is the limit. Nicholas John Bosa, congratulations to the Bosa family. All love and respect. Get your money, man.
Richard, this has been a very spontaneous, what is it? Wednesday? It's Wednesday night podcast here. We got to do this more often, man. I will let you sign us off, and I look forward to the emergency podcast tomorrow night after the Lions win.
Yeah, Mitchell, I look forward to it. Everybody, thank you for joining us again. We're going to be at this weekly. We may do a double take. If the Lions figure out a way to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, we will be back. Stay tuned.
We'll be back.